Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to take you through how to stitch a reversible hair bonnet. Okay, so let's get started. After cutting your flares, you're going to lay each fabric, being it satin or any other fabric you are using. In this case, I'm using a printed fabric and satin fabric. So after cutting your flares, you're going to lay them right side on right side as I've done on the screen. Okay, so as you are seeing me stitch, I'm stitching half an inch away from the edge of the fabric. You're going to do this all over the edge from where I've started to the other end where you're going to end your stitch. So you have to take note of this. While you stitch, make sure you don't close up your stitch. You're going to leave a 1-inch gap between the startup point of the stitch and the end up point of the stitch. So stay tuned as I take you through this tutorial. Remember, you're stitching half an inch seam allowance. So at some point you could see my sewing machine was giving me hassles, was giving me hard times, tough times. So at some point my thread would tear. I had to refix it in the needle to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Okay, so as you see, while you sew, make sure you align the fabric very well. If you see me stitch more than half an inch, it means there is excess fabric on the side where I stitch more than half an inch. Keep sewing until you get to the end point. And as I said earlier, make sure you leave a 1-inch gap between the startup point and the end up point. Soon we'll be bringing the stage to an end. So let me tell you why you have to leave a 1-inch gap between the startup point and the end up point. This is going to enable you to turn out the fabric, okay, the stitched together fabric. So these two fabrics that have been cut on flare have been stitched together. Now you have to find a way to turn it out
1-inch gap.
That's
so
why
as you can see,
I'm
I'm trimming off some fabric off the wrong side of the stitched fabrics. Okay, so what I was doing was taking off some of the other ones from where I stitched more than half an inch. Okay, so there were excess fabrics at some point while I was stitching, so I just had to iron things out and get things uniformly done. So as you see, I'm turning out the fabric from the wrong side to the right side. Do this patiently. Always make sure to reinforce your stitches. Okay, so if you don't reinforce your stitches at the beginning and the end, while turning out the fabric like I'm doing, you may tear your stitches. You see how tough it is for me to turn the fabric out. It's not as easy as it seems. It depends on the allowance you leave or the gap you leave. It depends on the gap, the width of the gap you leave while you're stitching. So as I was demonstrating, I took it to the iron stand and pressed it out. So you can see every part of the edges were laying flat now. Okay, so we are going to continue from here. What we are going to do is we are going to measure 2.5 inch. You can make it 2 inch, okay, 1.5 inch for ruffles and half an inch for casing. What is casing? Casing is going to help you to put in your elastic. As you can see, there are stitches, okay, there are 2 stitches within the fabric. So as I'm showing on the screen, you see that I've done 2 stitch lines okay, we'll say seam lines. Okay, so in between the seam lines is what we call the casing. You're going to put your elastic through that, okay, that's two lines or two seam lines that you've created. You see that I left 1.5 inch at the exterior, at the end of the exterior seam line. Okay, see the seam lines, one goes inside and one goes on the outside. What I'm doing right now is I'm measuring elastic. Okay, but you can feel free to use your elastic as you want. If you measure, you may end up making it too tight. I was making this for a baby, so I decided to measure the elastic. But for an adult, feel free because every head circumference is different. So I was trying to pin the elastic down at the edge. So as you saw me pull the elastic through, make sure you leave some with the exterior seam line. You're not going to close the seam, or you're not going to close the stitch line. So at the point where you turned out the fabric, you're also going to leave some space there to allow you to pull the elastic through the casing, as I'm doing at this point. I was making this hair bonnet for my baby girl. For that reason, I had to make sure that I'm using some ease. I'm going to make sure that the elastic isn't too tight on her and it isn't too loose on her head. Okay, so as you see, I've already pulled the elastic through the casing and everything is currently complete. So I've pinned elastics together and I'm going to stitch like I'm doing. So you stitch, make sure you go forth and back to make sure that the elastic is well stayed together and reinforced. Okay, so as you're seeing, I'm going to pull the elastic to one side, which was the inner seam line. Okay, you pull the elastic that you've stitched very close to the inner seam line to give room for you to close the opening where you pushed the elastic to enter the casing. Okay, so you pin the elastic very close to the inner seam line so that it give you room for you to stitch, to make sure that you don't stitch over the elastic. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. You have to make sure that you pull the elastic that you've stitched and pushed inside the casing away from the outer seam line, okay, so that you don't stitch over it. Okay, so this is to enhance free movement of the ruffles anytime you want to arrange them while you wear it. Okay, so I was trying to finish up my stitching, as you see. After that, there is one last opening to close, which was the opening that we made and turned the fabric out through. Okay, you can close it with hemming, invisible hemming, or you can close it with a sewing machine. All depends on you. Always know that as a fashion designer or as a sewist or as a tailor, finishing matters. Okay, but with this, I was eager to finish what I wanted to do on time. I was in a haste, so I had to use the machine to finish that close-up. Okay, but you can always use invisible stitches, which is also a hemming. You can also use hemming process to close up that gap. Okay, so after this, I think we are done. Okay, the reversible bonnet is now ready and good for the market. You can make it for yourself, you can make it for family, you can make it for friends. Feel free, just play around it. In the next tutorial on hair bonnet, I'm going to teach you how to make the hair bonnets, one-sided hair bonnets. Okay, one-sided hair bonnet. And that one you're not going to use two fabrics. You're going to use just one layer of fabric. I know you're thinking of how you're going to do that, but don't worry, it's as easy as ABC. So as you see, this is the other side of the hair bonnet, the print side, and also the other side I was sewing was the satin side. So as you can see, it's not tight, it's not too tight, and it's not too loose, and it's good for my baby's head. So the size could look a bit large, but it's okay for my baby. Okay, so an adult can use it, babies can use it, all depends on you. So this is how it looks on my mannequin. Yeah, this is how it looks. This is the finishing. Okay, presenting our reversible hair bonnet. Okay, so